Good day to you all. I am Keeter Nathan Antonio Grida and I will be teaching FNDMATH LQ4 problem number 4. So to solve this problem, we can use any traditional trigonometric identities or functions because it's not a right triangle. It's an obtuse triangle. The obtuse triangle means that the angle of the length of one side the angle of one side of the triangle is greater than 90 degrees. Right? Greater than 90 degrees. So that means you can form a right triangle because the angles inside the triangle must equal to 180, right? If there's greater than 90 degrees, it won't be a right triangle because simply, let's say this is 100 degrees, the rest could only equate up to 80 degrees, so you won't have space for a right triangle because you must have a 90 degrees there. You can fill in this space, right? You can fill in this space. So how do we solve it then? Well, using the law of sine and cosine. The law of sines states that the ratio between one side and sine of the theta of that side, so sine A, is equal to the ratio of the other sides over their corresponding angle. So sine B equals to C over sine C. So let's try to solve it, shall we? So what this basically just means is that you can solve for any side or any angle as long as we get 3 or more sides between these two, okay? So let's try this one. So A, the side of A here, over sine of 88, their angle, this corresponding angle, because A is opposite to this one, is equal to B, the ratio of B here, B is 8 over sine B, or whatever angle that does B have, is just also equal to the ratio of C, which is 2 over what angle of C may be, right? So if we try to solve it, so A is just A, so we haven't got A yet. A over sine of 88 is just equal to B, which is 8 over sine of B. Still haven't got the angle of B. C just equal to 2 over the sine of C. So if you realize it, I've realized it now, by now, that we can solve for any of these sides because this equation will leave two unknowns, right? Because if we try to solve for A, we still don't know the value of sine B, and vice versa, right? That's where the law of cosines comes in, right? Law of cosines. The law of cosines states that the square of a certain side, let's say A squared, is equal to the sum of the squares of the remaining sides, C squared, minus twice the product of the remaining sides times cosine of the angle between the two remaining sides. So the angle between B and C, which is just 88 degrees, as we see here, because this is B and this is C, and the angle between it is 88, cosine 88 degrees. So we can solve for A by just plugging in the square root of this equation. So 64, which is just B squared, plus C squared, which is just 4, minus 2 times 8 times 2 cosine of 88. So there's no more space, sorry. Which in turn just leaves us equal to, hold on, let me get my calculator. Sorry for the interruption. Now that I have my calculator, sorry for the interruption, we get square root of, let's try to solve it, 68 times minus 32 cosine of 88, which is just equal to 66.88, or frankly, it's just equal to 8.18. So now that we have our side, so let's just try to write that so that we may hindi tayo malito mamaya. A is just equal to 8. Oh, sorry, it's a bit blurred color. 8.18. B and C. Let's get finer. So B is just equal to 8, right? And A is equal to C is equal to 2. And our big A, which is the angle. So don't be confused. The small a is just the length of the side, and the big letter is just the angle of the side, opposite to the side. I mean, because opposite of A is just this length, and its angle is 88, right? So don't be confused. So big A, we have 88 degrees, and we still have yet to find B, the angle of B. So if we get the angle of B, it's just easy to get C, and I will show you why later on. So now that we have our value of A, we can solve finally for what the value of B is, right? So 8.18 is equal to 8 over sine B. So let's just try to chop this equation, right? So sine 88 degrees. So we cross multiply. So sine B is equal to 8 times sine 88 degrees over 8.18. So solving for that, 8 times sine 88 degrees over 8.18, we get, so sine B is equal to just 2.997. 977, sorry. 977. But don't be confused, right? Because this is not the angle. It's just what sine of the angle equates to. So to get the angle, we will try to get the inverse of it. So B is just equal to the inverse sine, because if we use the arc sine function to a specific value, we will get its corresponding theta, or its angle. So we get B is just equal to 77.88 degrees. 8 degrees, right? So 77.8 degrees. Now for C, it's a little bit easier, because since we know that the sum of the angles of the triangle, it must be equal to 180, right? The sum of the sides of triangle must be equal to 180 degrees. We'll just do C is equal to 180 minus whatever A plus B is. So 88 degrees plus 77.8 degrees. So we get 88. 180 minus, it's around 14.2. So 14.2 degrees. So C is equal to 14.2. Right? So if we try to solve for it, A, 8.18 over 80, sine 88 must bear the same answer as B over sine B, or 8 over 877.8 sine 77.8. So let's try to solve it. So the answer for this one is 8 point. Let's just highlight in red. The answer for this is 8.18. So the ratio must be equal to the same side. So 8.18 must be the answer for all of the sides. So let's try 8 over sine 77.8. So also 8.18. For C, 2 over sine 14.2 is also, it's 18.15, but we have a margin of error because we've just rounded up the degrees here. So just a little bit minor error. So it's 8.15, but if we retained some of the decimals here, and perhaps I missed a few of them, it will it's still near 8.18. But that doesn't change the fact that these all equate. The ratio of all the sides and over their corresponding angles still equate to each other. So we've found all the dimensions, so let's check, and we're trying to find the area of the triangle. So we must know that the area of a triangle, based on our high school geometry, is just equal to 1/2 times the base times the height. So we can say that the base here is just equal to 2, right? Equal to 2. But, however, how can we get its height? We don't know what its height is. Its height is this one, right? Its height is the altitude. It's the highest point. Well, how can we get that? Well, we can use we can manipulate the triangle, right? Because we know that's the reason why we don't use Pythagorean theorem here, because trigonometric identities here, like trigonometric functions of sine, we can just use the opposite of our hypotenuse, because we don't have a right triangle, right? We can't have a hypotenuse here. That's why we have to use the law of sines and the law of cosines to solve for an obtuse triangle. So we can try to recreate this. Let's recreate this triangle here. So it may not be up to scale. Sorry for the horrible drawing once again. Yeah, it's not really this almost the same triangle, but let's just fix it. So let's try to make it a little bit more realistic to the real triangle here. Okay, now we already solved for A, which is just 8.18. It's 2 and this 8. So how we know that the base is just equal to 2. Equal to 2. So we have to find the height, which is the altitude. So what is it? How do we solve it? Well, I've mentioned earlier that we can't use the trigonometric identities, functions beforehand, because we can't use opposite over hypotenuse or whatever, because it's not a right triangle, but we can make it into a right triangle. So what I mean by that is you can split this into 2 different triangles, right? So that we can have a right triangle. So if we split it into 2, if you can observe, we have a right triangle over here, right? We know that this is just equal, the angle over here is just equal to 88 degrees from this previous example, right? So we can solve for the height, right? Because using the trigonometric identity, now we can use the trigonometric identity, function of cosine, because you have a right triangle here. So if you're wondering why we use trigonometric functions over here, even though I've said that we can't use trigonometric functions on when it's not a right triangle, well, these equations are derived from making this obtuse triangle a right triangle. So you can just review it on your own on how I did it arrive to these equations, but it is derived from making it a right triangle, like that. They're just separating the obtuse triangle into 2 separate triangles so that they have a right triangle here, right? So just not to confuse you guys on its derivations, I'm just gonna leave it out as a homework for you para hindi na kayo malito, di ba? So focus muna tayo dito. So now, alam natin na parang missing, kailangan natin hanapin si height, yung height niya. So we know that cosine of theta is just adjacent over hypotenuse, right? So sa tingin nyo, anong gagamitin natin na function between sine and cosine para mahanap ang ating altitude, or ito? Alam na natin hypotenuse niya, na ito 8 na to ang hypotenuse niya, di ba? Kung galing dito. Paano natin mahanap naman ito? Itong side na to. Siyempre, gagamitin natin si sine, di ba? hindi si cosine. Kasi pag si cosine ginamit natin, mahanap natin itong nasa baba niya. Kailangan natin itong nasa taas. Ito. Yan. Di ba? So, gagamitin natin si sine. So, sine of 88, para mahanap siya, is equal to 8, the height or the opposite side over the hypotenuse of 8, right? So 8 sine 88 degrees is equal to its height. So let's try to solve for it. So we get 7.995, or just equal to 8 actually. But we're just trying to retain the decimals para di tayo kulangan katulad kanina. So now we can plug in the area. So area, let's just write it over here of the triangle, is just 1/2 base times height. We've got the base, which is already 2, right? Yeah, 2 times 7.995. So let's try to plug it in our calculator. Actually, it's just cancel out, right? I forgot, sorry, clumsy me. So the area is just equal to 7.995. Okay. So that is actually basically all. So it might look a little bit too how do you say it, unrealistic that the height of the triangle is ultimately just its area, but since it's an obtuse triangle, that may actually be true, because let's try to have an example of why the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So we know that the area of a square is just equal to side times side, right? So let's just label it as side 1, side 2, right? So if we try to create a diagonal here, a diagonal! So that's how it got it, right? So it's a triangle, if you can notice it. It's a triangle. If we create a diagonal on that square, right? So if we split it in half, so 1/2 of side 1 times side 2, so split in half, it's a triangle. So it's just 1/2 the area of a square, right? Side 1, side 2, and ultimately our altitude is just this side 1, so just height, and our base is just the side 2, which is the base of the other side of the square. So that's how we derive the area of the triangle. So if you like put its missing pieces here, like make it like a regular square, it will make sense on why the height is just equal to its area. It's just cancel out. Hindi naman ganyan lagi na nagka-cancel out siya. Coincidence lang, guys. Not to scale lahat to, guys, ng drawing natin, okay? So basically ganun lang siya, okay? Ganun lang yung gagawin mo. So which cross it out. Ganun lang gagawin, guys. Hanapin nyo lahat ng sides. Hanap using the law of sines or law of cosines. Kung di nyo mahanap lahat ng sides using the law of sines, you can try using the law of cosines na lang. Then substitute. Tapos to cross-check nyo, make sure nyo na yung ratio ng lahat ng sides is just equal lang sila kanila, di ba? Ang ratio ng A over sine A is just 8.18. Ang ratio ng B over sine B is 8.18. Dapat equal sila. Ito iba lang since nagkaroon tayo ng onting margin of error sa I left out some decimals, but that's fine, okay? Then you just compute, right? For the area naman, kailangan mo hanapin height, but to compute for the height, you just have to create an imaginary Pythagorean triangle, right triangle, so that you can compute for the height. So yeah, that is all. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys learned something from this video, and I hope to see you soon on the next video. You can scan the QR code for more syntax videos, and for you if you want to book a tutorial session with us. So that is all. Thank you.